Democrats simply don't have the cold-heartedness necessary to see people suffering and just say, let them eat cake.
Yeah, but then
they are not the types that
they voted repeatedly to do it. I mean, you just heard Democrats
and what
on
was Donald Trump doing in the meantime?
He doesn't have a vote in the legislature.
No, he's the president of the United States, the most powerful president with Republicans in my lifetime, Scott.
On this episode of The Abby Phillips Show on CNN, hosted by Sarah Seidner, viewers were treated to a lively and at times tense discussion surrounding the end of the recent government shutdown. The panel featured several familiar political voices, including Ana Navarro, Scott Jennings, Congressman James Clyburn, Breanna Lyman, Dylan Douglas, and McGaul. As the conversation unfolded, each guest brought their unique perspective to the table. From the Democratic side emphasizing the need for bipartisan cooperation, to conservative commentators arguing about fiscal responsibility and political accountability. The exchange became particularly animated when Ana Navarro and Scott Jennings clashed over which party should shoulder the blame for the repeated brinkmanship in Washington. Navarro, known for her sharp political commentary and moderate Republican stance, didn't hold back in criticizing the dysfunction that continues to plague both parties, especially when it affects everyday Americans. Meanwhile, Jennings pushed back, defending his party's strategy while questioning Democratic leadership decisions that, in his view, contributed to the stalemate. Throughout the discussion, Sarah Seidner kept the panel focused, ensuring that every viewpoint was heard, while also pressing for clarity on how lawmakers plan to prevent yet another shutdown in the near future. This segment offered a fascinating glimpse into the deep political divides shaping today's headlines. We'll unpack some of the most striking moments from that debate and share a few thoughts on what this exchange reveals about the broader political climate in Washington. So let's dive in.
A welcome ending or a missed opportunity. It depends on who you ask. 7 Democrats and 1 independent joined Republican senators and just voted to end the shutdown. The deal still needs, of course, to pass the House, but it will fund the government until the end of January. It will not, however, extend health care subsidies. That will be set for a date for a vote at a later time to extend those subsidies potentially in December. Some major backlash is emerging inside the Democratic Party. Those 8 senators are defending their vote now.
This was the reality. SNAP recipients suffering, nothing happening on ACA. So from suffering and no path, we've now got robust benefits and a path.
Staying in a shutdown mode was not getting us anywhere.
If the battle plan isn't working, you change the battle plan. You try another tactic, especially if what's happening is danger to your troops.
It's like, take the win. You know, we had an election and it went well on Tuesday. You want to overplay your hand.
But there are plenty of Democrats who disagree with those sentiments. For example, J.B. Pritzker says it wasn't a deal, but an empty promise. Congressman Seth Moulton said caving now makes no sense. California Governor Gavin Newsom called it pathetic and says America deserves better. Senator Chris Murphy added submission emboldens the tyrant. And Congressman Ro Khanna says Chuck Schumer is no longer effective and needs to be replaced. And then you have Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez saying working people want leaders whose word means something. We have Congressman Jim Clyburn here at the table tonight. His new book comes out tomorrow. It's titled The First 8. I have a copy of it here with me. I will have you sign it later. We will get to the book in just a bit. Sure. But first, this argument between Democrats. And I guess the big question is, if you didn't get the one thing that you were holding out for, what was it all for?
Well, I think we saw some things that we have not talked about that did happen. We saw what has happened with SNAP. I think that came out of this. What is happening with WIC, Women, Infant, and Children programs. So some things did happen. Now, on this particular issue, I think that's a real problem because you say you change your tactics. What are you changing to? It's a little bit like me hearing from my Republican friends, as I've been hearing for years, that we've got this plan. What kind of health care plan you have? They've never put one on the table. So if you got a new tactic, What's the new tactic? That's what causes me some pause about this plan. Now, if you promise a vote, is the vote on a bill or is the vote on the procedure? If you're promising me a vote on the bill, that means you're going to give me the 13 votes that you've got that I can get past the 60-vote filibuster. Now, if you're doing that and you will allow a direct vote, then I may have some consideration for it, because I do believe if you get to the 51, there are 2 or 3 Republicans that see the value in these tax credits.
Of the subsidies. Would you have voted along with the 7 Democrats that voted to go ahead and reopen the government and say, okay, you know what, we're not going to worry about the health care subsidies right this second. We just want to get this open?
Absolutely not. Not from what I've seen. They may know something I don't know. It may be that they have a promise for 13 votes to get beyond the filibuster. I have not heard that. If they had that kind of a promise, that's one thing I might take a look at. But if they don't have that as a promise, absolutely not. I would not vote for this.
Scott, I'm going to let you jump in here. But first, I want to let everyone hear from the Speaker of the House, who Jake Tapper talked to about this very issue, about whether or not this was going to be a vote, guaranteed vote, before the ACA subsidies end up ending. Let me let you hear what Mike Johnson had to say.
Would you bring it up?
Well, the bill that's going to pass
to extend the subsidies, that later vote.
I can't commit to anything that hasn't even passed through the Senate yet.
Will you have a vote on the issue as your 13 Republicans, frontline Republicans, people that you're the speaker because of them?
Yes.
They're in districts that are vulnerable. Sure. Will you have a vote so they can vote?
The very people that you were citing in the letter believe we have to have real reform.
So you're not committing to bringing up a bill that deals with the Obamacare subsidies before they expire?
I'm not committing to it or not committing to it.
He's not committing to it or not committing to it. And this is the very thing that Democrats were afraid of, that if they capitulated, that the subsidies would not be dealt with. How do you respond to that? There are a lot of people worried about how expensive their health care is about to get.
Yeah, first of all, Congressman, congrats on your book. Honored to be with you tonight. Second, look, one thing that came out of this entire fight is that the healthcare system in this country has been, Obamacare, has been exposed as a complete and utter failure. We all know it now. Everybody admits it. The other thing that came out is that Democrats are willing to make people suffer. And you heard Democrat after Democrat today say, well, we just couldn't prolong the suffering. So they admit that their political tactics were designed to inflict suffering on the American people. We also learned about cynical politics in this. But the overall issue of health care is going to have to be dealt with because the system has failed. Everyone, I think it's bipartisan now, admits it. But I'm not sure that having Mike Johnson commit to giving billions of dollars to insurance companies for insurance that's not getting any better, it feels like it's getting worse to the American people, is going to make a difference. I could see Democrats and Republicans coming together to discuss that, like if we're going to spend this amount of money, should we be just giving it to insurance companies or should we be doing something else with it that would actually have a chance of making it feel like you could get seen by a doctor and get a better health outcome? But what we're doing now, writing checks to health insurance companies, is not getting us any.
Let's take a moment to talk about this ongoing debate that came up during the discussion on the Abby Phillips show, particularly around comments made by Republican strategist Scott Jennings. Jennings, who frequently appears on CNN panels, once again echoed the familiar conservative critique that the Affordable Care Act, or Obamacare, has been a failure. Now, to be clear, there are legitimate debates to be had about improving the ACA. Many progressives have long argued that it doesn't go far enough and that the US should move toward a universal system, like Medicare for all. But here's the critical point. Republicans have had more than 15 years to present a serious alternative to the Affordable Care Act. If the ACA is truly as flawed as they claim, where is the detailed Republican plan to replace it? If lawmakers like Mike Johnson or commentators like Scott Jennings genuinely had a comprehensive healthcare proposal, one that lowers costs, expands access, and ensures that no American goes bankrupt because of medical bills, they could have brought it forward years ago. They could have showcased it on national television, outlining concrete steps to improve the system. But they haven't. Instead, What we continue to hear are recycled talking points criticizing Democrats without offering tangible solutions. That's what makes this debate so frustrating for many Americans watching at home. People aren't looking for more partisan blame games. They want policies that actually improve their lives. In just a moment, we'll hear from Ana Navarro, who delivered a sharp and thoughtful response to Jennings's comments. And she makes some excellent points that deserve a closer look.
Saw also, I think what America saw, particularly people who were directly impacted and suffering, is they saw that Donald Trump does not give a damn. While people were going hungry, while federal workers were making lines that went round blocks, he was in Mar-a-Lago golfing or hosting lavish parties with seafood towers and caviar and champagne. Not at one point did he say, we have got to convene, I'm going to lead, I'm going to put Republicans and Democrats in a room around a table, like he did with Palestinians and Israelis, and we're going to craft a deal. We are all Americans and we have to figure this out. No, I mean, he just completely abdicated his duty to lead. And when he wasn't hosting a Great Gatsby party, he was giving $40 billion of U.S. taxpayer money to Argentina to bail out those people. Doesn't sound very America first to me. And so I think that put a light on the kind of precedent that people voted for.
Scott, with all respect, you cannot put on the American people that Democrats were the one that were hurting people, making this plight.
Who was casting the votes against opening the government, Democrats or Republicans?
Who was
casting the votes?
Scott, who was wanting to cut SNAP benefits?
Nobody.
And who was playing up SNAP benefits after 2 courts ruled that it was unallowed?
Republicans voted to fund SNAP 15 times. Democrats voted to defund it 15 times.
You talk about the Affordable Health Care Act. Okay,
it's terrible.
Landmark legislation is not perfect. We understand that Democrats, Republicans, Independents, 70% of Americans, not Democrats, not just Independents, 70% of Americans believe that they should increase those subsidies past the dead mark of December, the COVID era subsidy benefits. So it's a huge, huge thing that Democrats, Republicans, 70% agree with. And look, when it comes to the government shutdown, I was of the persuasion that to go for it, I didn't really get it. Democrats wanted a fight. They got a fight. Chuck Schumer, back in last year, didn't fight. He got a lot of flack for it, particularly in his home state of New York. So they wanted a fight, but they found a fight that was worth fighting with talking about the Affordable Health Care Act. People were with them. Democrats were leading in the polls. We won big on Tuesday.
That's what it was for, right? It was for the election, right?
Well, I think we should have kept going. What I don't understand, and which I would love others to help me out understand, I don't understand why we caved so soon when the American people seemed to be on our side.
Because the election ended. You just said it. It was for the election.
Listen,
the election ended.
I know a lot of Republicans. I know a lot of Democrats. They're cut from different cloths. Democrats simply don't have the cold-heartedness necessary to see people suffering and just say, let them eat cake.
Yeah, but then
they are not the types that
they voted repeatedly to do it. I mean, you just heard Democrats.
And what was Donald Trump doing in the meantime?
He doesn't have a vote in the legislature.
No, he's the president of the United States, the most powerful president with Republicans in my lifetime, Scott. He never once even told them, come back to Washington.
We just played
Democrat. You guys have been out of Washington for a month and a half.
Correct.
A month and a half.
We just played Democrat after Democrat admit that the Democratic plan to prolong the shutdown was causing, quote, suffering. That was their words, not mine. Democrats themselves realized the tactic of suffering was no longer something they could personally stomach. That was their party, not Republicans.
Only 7 Democrats voted for this.
8.
Not Democrat after Democrat. No.
He caucuses with the
There were
Democrats.
7.
Don't split hairs. He caucuses with the
And you're absolutely right. You're right.
Exactly.
Democrats did fold because Trump was wagering the American people's health, safety, and food security on politic games. And the Democrats, one silver lining I see that we can be proud of as Democrats is we folded because we're the party of humility and humanity.
Ana Navarro made an excellent point during that segment, and honestly, she's absolutely right. At the core of this debate is a simple truth. Many in the Republican Party, including figures like Donald Trump, Mike Johnson, and Scott Jennings, have consistently shown a lack of genuine concern for improving healthcare for everyday Americans. Despite years of criticizing the Affordable Care Act, they've failed to produce a meaningful alternative. If there truly were a better plan to provide affordable, accessible healthcare, we would have seen it by now. The reality is that many Republican lawmakers simply don't want to see tax dollars used to support programs that help working families or lower-income citizens. Their priorities remain focused on protecting the wealthiest donors and corporate interests, rather than addressing the struggles of ordinary Americans trying to afford basic medical care. As Ana Navarro pointed out, there always seems to be funding available for foreign aid or military spending, yet when it comes to investing in healthcare, education, or social support here at home, the political will suddenly disappears. It's not about efficiency, it's about priorities. That's why Navarro's critique resonated with so many viewers. Democrats, for all their flaws, are at least trying to expand coverage and strengthen the healthcare system. But as she emphasized, they need to be stronger in defending those values. This isn't the same political landscape it once was. And playing by old rules while the other side fights relentlessly simply doesn't work anymore. So, what do you think? Do you agree with Ana Navarro that the real issue lies with Republican leadership? Or do you side with Scott Jennings' argument that Democrats are to blame? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and join the conversation. I'm Insights Brief, and I'll see you in the next